Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning for Friday Focus on the 6th of December. Before we get into the show, just want to thank you for sticking with us for 6 months. We've been running since July, and it's been an interesting journey. And obviously, at the moment, we're on a bit of a series of 3 shows. Slight difference today. I won't be doing books at the end because we're keeping the Christmas read for next Friday, which will be Friday the 13th of December. And Andrew Fell will be joining me to talk about some books to read over the Christmas period. But coming into today's show, just want to say, obviously after a lifetime of teaching and being involved in schools and education, I stepped out in 2010 and created the company that I now run, which is called Smart Curriculum. But I've been involved, and I refer to myself as a practitioner rather than a consultant because I work with leaders in schools. One of the privileges of running an organization outside of the day job is joining an organization like the British Education Suppliers Association, where I get to work with a whole load of other people of like mind, so leaders of education who have stepped out of the day job to do a different day job and to influence the education system in a different way. And some of the guests that you've seen me bring to the show have been some of those people. We get, as leaders of our organizations, to sit and talk with some of the great and the good in the education system, the influencers, the people that are making a difference. So it's a different perspective on the education process, but we are just as involved. Obviously, many of us are still governors or board trustees as well. So that's we're still involved and engaged in the process. But I just felt as we go into the conversation this morning, because Felicia Gibson leads PAGS, which is an organization running a platform, very different from ours, but a platform that's supporting teachers in the classroom, supporting leaders. And it's not that we're separate from the education, though the teachers and the head teachers and leaders, we're doing a different job now, but we have that same moral purpose, that same ethic of wanting to see the best for our children. So let me introduce Felicia to the stage. Thank you, Felicia, for being with us this morning. I appreciate you. Tell us a bit about your journey to this point. I've kind of given a feel a little of that now, but just tell us some of your journey.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Chris, for having me as a guest in this session. I will say that my journey is like perhaps everybody else, teaching in primary school and secondary school in special provisions, and going through this journey that is shaping us to the person that we are today. So after the 28 years in education, going through all those planning, preparation, leading a group of people, a team in my school, I step out, but I'm still in touch and working every day with schools. So look at me, a little bit emotional now. Like I'm delivering a lesson. The journey where we are today is that based on all the experience that I accumulated over the years, and especially in teaching, when I was teaching in my class 3 groups of students, profound and multiple learning difficulties, with moderate learning difficulties, and also with high functioning. So the amount of time that I was actually spending on planning and preparation was excruciating. And at the same time was the fact that I wanted to have those personalized targets, smart targets that will reflect the need of the child. So that time I was saying, why don't we have a possibility of understanding the developmental level of the child, and from there to be able to have the smart targets that will be measurable, and from there to be able to add academic targets, and to have in one document an intervention plan, which will be individualized education plan. So, and then when I step out from my leadership role, when I was really proud leading the school and helping the school to be outstanding in their journey, we started with a group of professionals this platform, which is called PAGS, Profile Assessment and Goal Setting, which is a digital tool that empowers every teacher and every leader in the school to have an overview of the SAN provision, where the budget is going, and the amount of CPD that has to be organized for the school as well as for the teacher giving the plans and interventions and resources, where I spend most of my time to help them to deliver this. So long story short, we could say that I went through 28 years of education in 5 minutes, but is more to say. I'm really honored to be here today. So, and I hope that we'll have a very interesting conversation for all our audience.
Yeah, Felicia, thank you for that introduction. I will say, I'll just pause at that point and say, obviously, we're on social media, so we're here on LinkedIn and we're broadcasting on YouTube. If you're on LinkedIn and you've got a question for Felicia, or you want us to engage in part of the conversation, please leave your comment on the feed. I will see it here, and we'll draw it in. Some of the conversations that we've had previously, we can draw your comment onto the screen and then engage you in this conversation. So please do get involved. Also, obviously, it helps us if you like and you share. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe. We want to grow the influence of this conversation and its impact across the system. So please, thank you for listening, but please just get involved in that way. So look, Felicia, you've described that, we've both had that experience of being in the classroom and being in leadership positions in education. I mean, there's lots and lots that's been said about special education needs or alternative learning needs, wherever you are, the SEN, special needs, or alternate additional learning needs if you're in Wales. Why do you think it's growing so much? What is it? I mean, speaking to what you've, so that this idea of the assessment and goal setting, what is causing this massive increase in the number of learners from what you've seen?
I would say that after COVID, so that also had an impact on the emotional development of students and the social skills. We've seen a rising number of students needing more help and counseling, and the fact that in the past, for instance, and still the focus is on assessing doing the formal assessment and assessing the skills that look more on the academic side, and like 20% or less than 20% are measured the skills that looking for the social emotional development. And I think that category is quite neglected, I would say. So the emphasis on developing this social emotional learning has to be more developed, and that was our aim as well. But I've also seen that the fact in primary schools, for instance, where the primary teacher knows very well and already developed the relationship with the students, those skills are still to be, or those needs, not the skills, are still to be identified. So we see lots of students slipping through the net in the primary school, and then we see in the 3 times more students with special needs in a secondary school. It's not that, for instance, they develop special needs overnight. It's the fact that they slip through the net, either waiting for the assessments. We know that there is a shortages of assessors and educational psychologists to have this diagnostic done. We know that in some local authorities there are 24 months to 36 months till the child get the diagnosis. So they may be at the end of primary school and maybe stepping in the secondary school, they have a diagnosis. Yeah. So that's this is what we've seen so far. So what did you see so far?
I think you make a really important point in the sense of the length of time that it's taking. I would agree with you entirely that that idea of social emotional health is being impacted by some situations. Now, we can't blame it all on the pandemic, although that was a catalyst, I think, to expose some elements. I think what you describe is very true. I mean, one of the, as a governor of a school, a small infant, or it's not actually, it's a big infant school, so 3 form entry infant school, which is quite a large, so 90 children a year. But what that time delay that you've just described, if you imagine, a child comes in at reception if they haven't been in nursery, and they move through the school, that the time it takes for diagnosis, and then the time it takes to get the funding sorted, which where I am in the country is currently running at about 55 weeks. So that's over a year to actually get into the funds after the diagnosis has gone on. So, it actually, by the time the thing's been identified and moved through the school, they're actually almost at the point of leaving the school before the funds are available to do something. So there are, I mean, we know that that's being looked at, but the other thing, I think what you've said, the resourcing of the local authorities, the multi-academy trusts obviously are still within, the local authorities have the legal obligation to provide that part of the service. But where we can't get the people, it's really providing a real challenge to the system. So I mean, that lag, that's a systematized problem. It's not necessarily inherent in the education, and it's the frustration of a lot of school leaders that's the kind of the message that we get. I'd just switch slightly to, because you can see it, that there's 2 sides to this, aren't there? There's the resourcing aspect, but there's the education purpose and the what we're teaching children. So I mean, what's your perspective on the what skills we need to be teaching children, and how does that change through the sort of school life? So we talk about this, educating for the 21st, 22nd century. Is there something that we're missing? Is there something that we should be building in? Felicia, what's your thought?
I have been talking to a lot of head teachers lately, and the last 3 years as well, actively working with schools. So we see a lot of behavior stemming from the needs being unmet. We've seen also problems with attendance, with exclusion. The number of students being excluded is rising as well. And we've seen also a lot of other lack of engagement, or for students or family preferring to keep the child at home and schooling them at home. So the emphasis and what stems out of here is that what kind of skills we will need to develop in those students, and overall to equip them to the 1st century, so to prepare them for a job that perhaps don't exist at the moment. So I came across this research that I shared with you about 21st century school skills, and from which stem our topic today, 21st century school. So a part of the core team of subjects, that is the umbrella to where we have the standards and the assessments, but actually we have to look at developing skills that will be have an emphasis on the creativity, innovation, and then also we have to have skills that will be leading towards the life and career skills that will actively help them to be working in a team, working in a group, advocating for their own rights, and that part that we also have to equip them with how to filter to this IT, information media, technology skills, which we know that social media plays such an impact now in the youngest generation today. So not everybody can be an influencer on a TikTok or having a living from that. So we look at, going back to what the head teacher was saying, I have a lot of students that are forgetting their PE equipment, or they don't bring some necessary things that need are really important for the school. And I said, well, how can I identify this? And I said, well, let's have a look and how their information processing working, how is the executive functioning working, is the child able to organize themselves, the organizational skills. So these are the skills that are so important, because they will help the child to be able to be organized. It will equip them with some strategies when he's facing that situation. What do I need to do? And we talked about earlier about the difference research that I came across lately from Donna Casari, and then what she was Connie Casari, not Donna Casari, pardon. And she was she's leading this research and then shared the results with us about the engagement group, and then developing those skills in the playground, and the skills development group. Again, that this was the study that was carried out on how the children are behaving, led by an adult in the playground. So this research highlighted how important was, well, the engagement had immediate results, but the group that did skills development had better outcomes in the longer term, which again proves the point that if we are helping the students and developing the essential skills in the classroom or in the playground, to be able to transfer those outside the classroom, on the corridor, in a hall, when you go for the assembly, or then in the bus when you take the journey to go home, and then even further, like for instance in the community. Actually, we equip them with skills that will enable them in the future to have a job. So yeah. I think that's ultimately the goal of us as educators. Why the child is going to a school, to be educated, no, to be equipped for the future.
And that, I guess, one of the questions, and it's a big question in the review that's going on in the English system at the moment, is this. I mean, I've used the expression several times. You know, we value what we measure what we value, and in a sense, it's easy or easier to measure retained knowledge than it is to measure some of the things that you've just referred to. And the question, I suppose, is, you know, are we measuring the valuable things? Are we highlighting? Are we championing those things that are important? And I guess that as educators, we're always asking those questions. So how do we validate the processes and practices that we have in our system? Because the research that we discussed this so it's the World Economic Forum 2016 looking at 21st century skills, and it's, you know, basically puts it into three domains. So we've got foundational literacies, which none of us would deny are important. So literacy, numeracy, scientific understanding, ICT, financial awareness, and culture. I mean, cultural competency is so little talked about, but that's such an important aspect of the global perspective. But then it goes into competencies, you know, and then it talks about character. Now I know Emma and Mark from Foundations First will be really pleased with that, because that's the center of what they do, and we've had them on the show and talked about their work. But I'm with them entirely, and we get into this, you know, the primary, secondary. You know, we can do all the things at primary, but when we get to secondary, it's all got to be about exam results and subject domains and moving forward. But so I you know, it's really important research. And actually, one of the things that I've done recently is to look at the development of curriculum around the world. In fact, I was talking to some leaders in Wales earlier in the week, and they described it that England is focused on the mind, where the Welsh curriculum is focusing on the heart, that it's more about who they are than what they can remember. And I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the curriculum embeds and grows, but I can't criticize that ethic. I think that's a really valuable start point. What do you think, Felicia?
I think there are a lot of discussions, even at BISA, around curriculum and how this is going to be shaped in the future. What do we need to change and what do we need to do? I think all stems from the fact, okay, we have to align with sustainable goals and look in the future, and we have to develop those skills that we just said and competencies for them to prosper further down the line. So those competencies that you mentioned, I think they're very important. I'm absolutely passionate about the inclusion and neurodiversity, and this is our niche. I'm looking at how the child develops, according to the learning development theory, all those theories that are still studied at university. And then I'm looking at the international standards of the child development as well. So what we developed in PAGS is just analyzing absolutely intrinsically of those developmental steps and those competencies that the child should develop according to their age. So what we discover is like you have a plastify wall that covers some holes. It looks very nice, but underneath that you can put your hand through, and then those blocks that are missing, or those parts of the wall that are missing, you're not aware of. So if we are managed to, and again, child-centric, and identify those gaps in the development, I will call them not gaps, I will call them developmental steps or opportunity. We have to give the child opportunities for learning. So, and from there, identifying those strengths and needs, then we are able to stem and to adapt the curriculum and what we teach. So rather than, as you said, trying to all the focus to be on knowledge, when I'm going back to the child, if the child is struggling to understand those concepts and the knowledge that I try to teach in the classroom, so the curriculum, if it's either based on developing the heart or developing the mind, is still developing the child intrinsically. We want to help that child, and at the same time, I want to help the teacher, because they are in the fire. They are so overworked in this, and there's so much. Things lately coming across with mental health issue, burnout, a lack of teachers. No, the recent government is talking about 6,500 teachers to be employed. So I'm going back to the profession that we both did, and we know how hard it is. So we have to have an overview when we design the school for the future of what we teach, what is the curriculum, what is my workforce, and then bringing all that community, having the reputation for the school. They say, well, that's the best school. I'm taking my child there. So that's community is recognizing that, because is how it is, and is teaching the heart and the mind, I would say.
I didn't say that to say that it's one or the other. It's a sense that we need both, because we do need both. It's the balance, isn't it? And it's how that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm just going to draw in a question, and it kind of led me. It was going to be my next question to you, because I know within PAGS you're talking about developing AI tools and how that is benefiting your sort of analysis, so the assessment side of what you're doing. I'm just going to bring in. So this is Robin Davis. Is a good morning, Robin, and thank you for your question. How do you see generative AI being used to tailor the delivery of curriculum to the learning style of each learner? I mean, there'll be a question around the learning style, because there's the research around that. Some teachers are a little uncomfortable with that, but I know what you mean, Robin, and we won't go into that element of it. Actually, Felicia, I mentioned to you the other day about the GC Index and the Young People's Index, this propensity tool. So it's interesting that Robin is the first person to comment. But just talk to us a little bit about the opportunity here of using technology and using generative AI, because it is a powerful tool. Some teachers are quite unsure of it, but how has it impacted what you're doing?
Well, technology and AI, technology is everywhere, including in the classroom. So we know that when it's used efficiently, it addresses many needs, no? So can engage learners. I'm going to point out that everybody knows, but I'm going to point them out. So engages the learners to the possibilities it offers learners to further explore what has been learned, or the multitude of ways in which we differentiate content and adapt material. No, that's what we talk about it.
Yeah.
To for the different learning styles. Yeah, exactly what he mentioned. To facilitate learning we talk about assistive technology and then all the learning apps that are available. Okay, the new hype about Gen AI, yeah, and are also to enhance the teaching processes through the way content is presented or manipulated to provoke curiosity and spark interest. I would say that technology is here to stay and AI is here to stay. And also we just have to harness this in a way that will improve improve functionality of classroom material or redesign tasks through technology. We are talking about, and we already have some algorithm and the machine learning impacts, and then we are introducing AI. I'm going to leave this little bit conversation when all these things are leveled out to our policies as well, because AI has still come to a lot of under the walls of regulation and stream. But what is important is that we are looking at again, from the teacher's point of view, how can I adapt or how can I help my lesson plan or integrate in the lesson plan the needs of the child that is neurodiverse in the classroom? That is my passion. This is where I would love to see how can we do this in a way that is really productive and then overcomes the challenges that the teacher has. I'm saying this because of the immense amount of time that I spend myself designing the resources, and then the amount of time that today the teacher is still have to prepare for the students in the class, for the ones that also need to catch up or need to be learned, need to be taught in a different way, the same curriculum, yeah, or to adapt the curriculum for them. So I would say that there are lots of good news the AI is bringing us. It's about us as educators being able to harness this in the help of the teacher and in the help of the learner in the longer term.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered to the question in the longer, but is a conversation that we could also go on and on about the AI.
I know that there's lots of people react in different ways, and again, I follow, the likes of Mark Anderson and others that are, engaged in, and there are lots of people talking. Mark's travels the world talking about AI and its use, but there was again, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but in a podcast I was watching was talking about AI and basically said for teachers, we're in this mindset where we are cramming brains with knowledge, and that's really just machine learning. But if we took out the machine part of our humanity, if we allowed the machines to do the things that are repetitive and don't need thinking, but allowed us to be more human, so the interactions of conversation between human beings, we can use AI to that great effect, because it would take away the time-consuming thing. From a teacher's, that's a lot of assessment, that's a lot of marking, that's a lot, and as you say, preparation. There's some brilliant tools out there, which I've done myself. To put this thing that I've got to do in the context. What can I expect of a 4 to 6 year old, and what can I do with it, and particularly cultural competency? So give me some exercises that I can do at that level. Give me some exercises that I can do with a sixth former, and just to read the content and the depth of understanding and the context that you can do, and then we'll do it in London, and then do it in Paris, and then do it in Dubai, and then do it in Toronto, and see what cultural differences there are in those cities, and see how that shapes how I would respond. that takes hours of research. For a teacher that can sit and go, well, okay, there's some ideas. I've still got the responsibility to go and explore it a bit deeper, but it gives me a start point. So
yes. I think from that I will add it's so important, and you're validating what we are doing, because you know, we have a complete solution for the schools that reduces the amount of time and then this admin task that Asenco does to draw this intervention plan, assesses the child in those competencies area that are according to the Code of Practice 2015, and then everything that stems from the child, and then is able to deploy this to the teachers to empower them and say, well, we can do this in the classroom. And then we introduce AI to say, okay, well, that's the developmental lead, that is the target, and this is your lesson. So how can we put this together? And this is where AI really can help. Now the designer say, I'm teaching this, and then I can adapt this a little bit to bring the other child in the lesson as well, which is just takes that cognitive step that, I have to think of something else. So we come with a bank of ideas and teaching suggestions and strategies. And then now we're starting even more, sharing them across the community of schools that we have in a platform, which is brilliant, because this is what I always wanted. We always want as educators to bring everyone together and to break these silos. So to have that community that is working collaboratively and sharing resources. So now we create that possibility, and as well as is the fact that we are super creative. As I say, that our teaching profession is forcing us to think outside the box, don't we? So we have a subject and we all have to say, I can do this and I can do this. And I think it's that creativity and innovation that is making us to be a better teacher, to be outstanding of what we do, to be loved and to be valued in the classroom. And the students are looking at us as teachers as their role models, no? Who is impacting your life more when you go in a school? Is a teacher who actually make you love the maths, or make you love the English, or giving you that passion, and then I say, well, you'll do better doing this or doing that. So it is basically influencing your career in the longer term.
And that what you've just described, Felicia, that is, every teacher knows that every child has different propensities. There are some that are turned on by maths and numbers. There are others that are turned on by words and description and creative writing, and there are others that are, like me, I drew and I made stuff. That was where I began. And I guess actually, just coming back to Robin, that the GC index is about identifying our propensities. It's not saying that you're necessarily got a grade 9 in maths, or you're aiming for a 7 in English. But it's actually saying, well, you are as a person seem to be have skills in this particular area, so you may be more into idea creation, and you're really looking at developmental models, or you might be the polisher, which is one of the things. So your propensity is towards making sure things are finished well, and there are different propensities that we all have. I personally think the GC index would be really valuable for children. That's why the YP index is, maybe that's something to have a conversation with further on. But it's the broader context of who we are and where we sit in what's our interest. And I've got loads of examples of children that the disengaged. I'm really interested in the use of technology, because one of the schools that I worked with a couple of years ago quite deeply was just during the pandemic, and we found that as the assessments analysis were done, those that were typically disengaged with the school environment, the classroom, the corridor, the regularity of school, when they went into the pandemic environment and were online and were doing activities, their engagement was almost 100%. And so they'd gone from very low attendance at school, found the social aspects of school quite challenging, but learning wasn't the problem, because when they were put in front of a computer, they engaged 100%. They were at it all day and engaged. Now, we can question the health, mental impacts of that conversation, but it's a shame in the sense that when we've gone back to life as normal, those children are disengaged because we've gone back to school as we expect school to be. And I guess the one thing about these propensity measurements is that we recognize we're all different, but how much of school is one size for everybody? And I guess something that your assessments are saying is that every child is different and we need to adapt. And that's, I guess, that's the word of the moment, isn't it? We adapt our teaching, we adapt the tools that we're using, we adapt the context of our activities so that it meets the children's need. Robin's come back and left a comment. Robin, I won't bring that in now, but yeah, absolutely. There's more to say on that subject. Can I just shift a little to your? I'm just conscious of time. One, thank you for those that are commenting. Please put your notes in, your questions in the feed on LinkedIn. Again, just a request. My team won't thank me if I miss the like, share, and subscribe. Please do that if you're watching either live or we know. From figures that we get from the analytics that you're watching afterwards, but thank you very much. We appreciate your attention. But leave comments and we'll try to get back to you. Just shifting the conversation a little. One of the things that you're interested in is the sort of the initial teacher training. How's what you've found in terms of the work that you're doing impacting the early career teacher, and what's missing? Felicia, what's your view on what's going on in the landscape of initial teacher training?
Bringing this up, it is an interesting subject. As we are passionate about inclusion and neurodiversity and bringing a solution to this. We came across to different teachers because we work with schools in the UK, UAE, internationally, and Belgium as well, that they have different knowledge, I would say, about what is inclusion. And I would say that is a lot more to be done. I would say that in some of the schools, inclusion is like a buzzword, but it's so much to be done in there, and it's about equipping the teachers with the skills to be able to face those challenges. I think in the teacher training, I don't know how much still is the focus on, and how much time is been scheduled related to the understanding how to differentiate the outcomes, how to make the reasonable adjustment in the classroom, and how to teach the students. I think we need to be doing more for those young teachers that are embracing the profession, and then to meet their needs and to give them tools that will be performance. So here's where PAGS is really good at it in terms of helping the teacher to understand the needs of the child. So when you go down to that relationship that in between the teacher and the learner, and how do I read into that? So they also themselves, they have to be equipped. Those cognitive skills, those skills that are through PAGS, we are upskilling as well the teachers for them to understand better the child. Everyone who answered the questions in our questionnaire, they said, I never thought about this, or I haven't looked at the child in this way. So teaching profession and the ones that are stepping into the teaching profession is really laudable. And it takes a lot of amount of time and preparation, that we all know. And I think in those early years, when we start training them, we need to be doing more for this part of inclusive education. Because otherwise, as I said, we just come with is a nice buzzword. It's nice in theory, but very hard in practice. So if you then result into managing crisis and being reactive rather than being proactive. And what we know that prevention is better than cure. So therefore, if you understand that, if you understand where this stems from, then you are better prepared. Oh, I know that because I've already been taught. So knowledge dispels fears, no? So all that cognitive input again has been taken. And also we have seen that it is so much focus, as we pointed out earlier, on the cognitive aspects to teach knowledge. Well, we know that the data that we have at hand, and then the one that you presented, is showing that emotional and social behavior is an increasive cause of concern. No? So we, as I mentioned, the number of exclusion in the UK alone, only in the last year, we've seen more than 3,900 exclusion and over than 352,000 suspension from the last scholastic year. So there's a lot of rising there. So when you step in the teaching profession and say, oh, but I have to face all this and I have to face all that. So how do we develop that love for the profession again? And I think that goes back to the how we train them better for the job.
And I, if I go back to my teacher training, it was very focused on how do you deliver the subject. It had, and we might have done education psychology and sociology and sort of the theories of learning, but it was very academic rather than how am I going to deal with a group of 30 children of which their existence is making them afraid, concerned, and all those things that impact their social and emotional health. I think things are changing. Certainly, I know from our roundtable, the BESA roundtable experiences, we had that conversation around initial teacher training. I can't remember the presenter, but she won't thank me because I'm sure she's very significant in what she's doing. But excuse me from not remembering a name right now. But I know from what she described, when you look at the length of time that people go through initial teacher training, if they're on a PGCE program, a postgraduate certificate of education, it's minuscule, the concentration on inclusion. I mean, we're talking about 20 hours out of a 2-year program, and that's a minuscule amount. When you think that if you're at the chalk face, as we say, if you're in the classroom, that's a major significant part, emotional intelligence of how you're talking to young people, how you're presenting what you're trying to do, what experiences you're designing for their benefit. We had Daniel Sobel last week from the the International Forum of Inclusion Practitioners, who was talking about it, about inclusion projects around the world. And if you haven't seen that episode, please go and see it, because it was a really powerful conversation. Inclusion is so many different things in so many different contexts, but where we're talking about neurodiverse children. Actually, I think of an episode a little while ago where we had a Gemma, who's a head teacher in a school, actually in the practices that they're putting in place, removing overstimulating displays from the classroom so that children can be more peaceful and listening and not distracted so much. So there's so many things that are impacting, but that's learning on the ground. That's not the preparation of initial teacher training. So there's definitely a space where we need to see a real concentration on that.
Absolutely. I think this is basically is going to align to what the government is in the UK now. It's looking on the longer term of improving the outcomes and giving more attention to the SEN. And we talk about the funding and all that stuff. But what I want really to show in here, actually to point out, not to show, is that early identification and intervention from SEN can actually improve longer term outcomes by 50%. So again, prevention.
Trouble. Please try in a little.
If we are equipping the teachers to be able to face those challenges, then we also improve the outcomes of the teacher. So also we came across with the schools who are using SEN comprehensive system like ours can have 20% reduction on SEN on admin time. So it is all about again, going back to technology, harnessing this technology. Okay, I know my way of doing it, but what about using technology to help you to speed up that time and to reduce the admin time? So we really want to work with schools to empower them and also their leaders of reducing the admin task and also having an overview of the budget and applying for the funding for the HCP plans and reducing this amount of time when you have to collect the evidence. So if it's not 6 months, we can do it in less than 4 weeks. So again, gathering all that data that will help an application to be successful, to help the parents, to help the school, to help ultimately the child. No, so having a clear understanding of the developmental level of the child and with the personalized targets and strategies and intervention will help you to have a better report. No, later on. So we talk about that propensity and what the child is good at. So it is understanding those strengths and areas of development and being able to track and to map that provision that would be needed for the child in the longer term.
Yeah. I think, there's two bits out of what you've just sort of talked through that I think are really significant. One, that growth in exclusions, and we know we've spoken elsewhere about the massive increase in home educated children, or at least parents choosing that not to engage in that structure. That must ask a question about what we're doing, but then just not to lose that. So your system that you've designed reduces the time that it takes to do that preparation for the journey. Because I know, I've been with heads that are forming those reports, massive data and all the the folders full of we've got this and we've got that and we're forming. Obviously the form is a lot shorter than that, but you get to that point of collecting all the data and submit it. Can take months of activity, and your system does it in 4 weeks, or you can get it to that position, which is that's how we're using technology to support teachers and leaders to get things where they need to be. That's a really powerful process for this year. It's good to be shouted about. I believe.
Absolutely, I think it's a continuous work. We are making iteration, and we are listening to our champion schools. We are listening to the having conversation with them. Even yesterday we had 2 schools online. So how do I map the provision? I have to complete, for instance, she was saying I have to do a form that has to show the how many hours I'm going to spend with this child and map that provision. We can do that so with a click of a button. So you reducing all this amount of time, say, oh, this is brilliant. Oh, I want it so much. Can you do that? Can you do this? So we are really looking forward to engaging in conversation with trusts, and where we know that would be deployed immediately to more schools, and then have that bigger social impact that we are looking for. And also for the fact that, again, being myself a teacher, how do I help and how do I minimize that time, reduce that time that is spent on planning and preparation? So anybody can have a look on our website. It's www.pagsprofile.com, or we have a bank of resources that are free, guides for transition, reducing anxiety in school, all sorts of materials in there they will come across. And I know you said that they can reach out to you if they want to get in touch with us at info.
Yeah. I'll put that on now, so that if people want to contact us, it's there on the bottom of the screen. So info@Smart Curriculum. But if you go to the website that Felicia has just referred to, so just say the address again.
Is PAGS, www.pagsprofile.com. Yeah, that's what we.
And if you get lost on that, just do a search for PAGS profile. So we've done the advert bit, and we've got people. So genuinely, this isn't about highlighting products. This is about, and our conversation has been about the education system and what we're trying to do for learners. And we that's at the heart, the moral purpose of what we do. We're teachers at heart. We value this process, and we've been involved in that leadership conversation. I just, I'm conscious of sort of drawing our conversation to a conclusion. We've got a few minutes yet, but just one of the things that I've talked about, or I presented this series, is the positive change, because I believe, so many people talking about it's broken, the system's broken, that we're not, that there are things that are wrong. If you've been in school leadership, you'll know what you're fighting in, what you're dealing with, and those of us that have been there and have that moral purpose built in us, it's just part of what we are. You're fighting in it to make positive difference. Certainly, if you've worked in challenging areas of the country, and you've worked with what used to be called schools in challenging circumstances, you're looking for the positives all the time. You're looking to make positive change. Just a question for this year, in terms of your perspective and the people that you've worked with, what would make what one thing? There's probably lots of things, but what would be the significant thing in your perspective that would make a difference for leaders in terms of the work that you're doing, that would make a difference for the children that we're serving at the moment? What would really make that difference, do you think?
Would be, I think one thing that to me as a leader was having my staff embracing the journey and the vision and the plan that we designed for the school. I think having that relationship with your staff and having that positive ethos in the school is really helping and shaping and bringing that in the community and bringing that atmosphere into the classroom. I think that makes a significant difference in the future school. So is that relationship, is the leader with the SLT team, is with everyone, like 86 people that you have, or 100 or 300 that you have in it, and then having them to buy in your idea, in your vision, I would say it as a leader is really important. And I have to say that the leadership today is, as a leader in education, as a head teacher, is not an easy job, because you really have to have all those knowledge to understand from the finance point of view, from the school perspective, from the offset, what it's doing. So you feel sometimes isolated. So having that community around you, people that actually believe in the same values that you believe, will help you to bring that out in the community and to improve those lives that you are leading through. I came across with really amazing leaders. I will have a big list to mention all of them, and I've been myself as well appointed now as a governor to one of the schools, just to help on the SEN part. So I came across, as I said, with really passionate leaders in education, and they say that this is what is actually important in the longer term, developing this relationship and being able to take that that team with you. I will never forget my executive head when she was asking me, and where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I was in that conversation, I said, just be mindful, how is your vision? How do you see? I think having this conversation when you do the performance management review is bringing that heart out, is connecting you with people. I think authenticity certainly is helping us to connect with people, having the communication skills, having to, as I said, having to embrace them, your vision. And this is what she said to me at the time. And I said, don't forget that your vision is you go as an high-speed train. Just don't forget to take the wagons with you. The people with you. So you see, I remember even now the words that she said to me in that session. They will always remain with me. And I think this is what makes us really successful leaders. And this is what is the school in 21st century about? Yeah, because it's that community. You cannot govern by yourself. The school is not in one person. No, the school is everyone in there, and understanding the needs and understanding it. So one of the CEO that I had a conversation with him, he was talking about the schools and when they form MATs and how they are now from the associated school going into the MAT. And I said, and how do you feel to this? And how do you understand that, that all that process? Oh, we have to look in everything aspects, because that's basically what the trust is about. Yeah. So bringing everyone, having a framework. So that's why we are really passionate and we love to work, and we are working with trust, which this is why you can make bigger difference in the longer time, influencing the policy and the framework that you have in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Felicia, I absolutely with you. Actually, I was having a conversation yesterday with I do a training setup that we were involved in yesterday morning, and it was about vision setting. And the example I gave was, I walked into a school, and in the head study there was the vision, printed on the wall around. And I just asked, because actually one of the things was just behind the head's desk, so right in front of where I was sitting, and it said, "We educate children for the 21st century." It was actually very key for what's going on now.
Yeah.
And I said, "Look, please don't take this as a criticism, but let me just ask you, how does that relate to what's going on in the classroom? How have you transferred that vision statement to what's going in the classroom?" He said, "Why do you ask that question?" I said, "Well, you've just walked me. One of your colleagues has just walked me around the school. And I was a DT teacher, so I'm always interested to poke my head in the door and just, so." And I have to say that the DT workshop was a Victorian workshop. It had, old wooden benches. There were very few machines. And I said, "You're educating children for the 21st century. You're saying that as your vision. But how is that pictured, captured, enhanced, shown in your classroom?" And actually that conversation was educational for me, because it shaped the way I ask questions about vision and values. Because we have all these leadership meetings where we form our values and we shape our conversation, but we don't always then think, okay, so how does that go down to, so what's going on in the special needs department that's education for the 21st century? What's going on in geography and history and languages? And it's not just about using technology, although that's part of it, but it is, what's the aspiration for that learner? And have we got the view of what that's going to look like? And that's where I would encourage people to look at that. So the World Economic Forum 2016 reports, there's so much out there that people are talking about what the future is going to be. And that just, Frank Norris's view when I was talking to him, that thing of, so what's it going to be in 10 years time, and what are we preparing them for? Felicia, we've already had somebody comment that they're on your website already looking, so someone's already exploring that. So please, we're come to the end of our hour's conversation. Felicia, I'm very grateful for the conversation. It's been wide-ranging and impactful. Is there anything you just want to kind of leave us with?
Well, again, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. I shape myself to be in this conversation more often. I think we have to bring this on the agenda, on everyone's agenda, I would say. I have recently done work with the Rotary, the worldwide organization that is looking at disability and advocacy. And I have worked a couple of sessions with them. They also had a conference online where I led that panel about the difference in between inclusive education and special needs education. So what are the pros? What is the difference, basically? And had the opportunity to have an international panel. So I think that we have to look at what is happening here, but also to have a broader perspective of what is happening right out there, these cultural differences. Yeah. So one thing is, thank you so much, all the community in there. Please reach out to us. We love to be in touch with everyone. There are a lot of great products out there, I know, but what stands out us apart is the fact that we are a team of people, that we are really passionate, and then we are really going down and forming this relationship and partnership where we believe to. And as you said, Chris, it's about the heart and the knowledge.
It's about the heart and the head, not, but we don't want to be.
Okay.
Absolutely. They're just, I'd say, I actually, Felicia told me at the beginning, so PAGS has just been awarded the Rising Stars Award and the Social Impact Award. So, you know, it's people are noticing what's going on, and I, you know, I really appreciate your input. There are other people commenting, so please, if you go and find, or if you're watching this, you can see it, and you can see the thread of conversation below. Please do get involved in the conversation. Next week I'm back again, so three in a row, which is unusual for us, and we'll see where that leads us into the new year. We've certainly got plans into the new year to keep going, and if you're interested in joining the conversation, or you'd like to join me, please just let me know. You can do that through my LinkedIn direct messaging. But thank you to Felicia for the very enjoyable conversation this morning about schools for the 21st century. Thank you very much, and I will see you again very shortly. So come and join us next week for the Christmas read.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.